Okay, we all set?
Yep.
Last week, we got a couple of people saying that they couldn't hear. I think it was Maureen and I.
The transmission very soft on the TV. We cranked our TV all the way up and you still can't hear it. And then last time there was all that static, which I don't know what that was.
Yeah, that was more than cable.
Yeah, so that's what we thought, but it's always very soft, you know, if there's anything else going
I have
on.
to speak into these. Okay, Ryan, sorry.
Could be, that's all right, sorry.
We're gonna get going here. Thanks. Okay, welcome everyone to the May 14th Select Board meeting. I'm John Martin. Francine Tishman is on my left and Rini Groden to my right. We're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're being recorded live. We're going out live and being recorded, two separate things. If somebody at home can't hear us, if somebody could text one of us and let us know, we'll try to stay close to the microphones. Okay, appointments, we have none. Hearings, we have none. We were hoping to have somebody from the Greenway here, but we haven't gotten anybody on the schedule yet, so Ed's going to continue to try because we want to find out an update on that. Reports from the Select Board. So Ed, would you mind starting first? We got to talk slow because Ed's doing the recording of the meeting to the minutes.
All right. Chief Illingsworth and myself would like to ask if one or two members of the Select Board would be available to meet with us and our Eversource representative. Eversource has not paid the town for the detail work which was done to protect the electric lines in the aftermath of the February 28th windstorm, and they have stated to Chief Illingsworth that they were not intending to pay for the detail work associated with the cleanup from that storm.
Did they say why?
No, and we are not the only town. I think Buckland, Deerfield, and one or two other ones are in the same boat. We are probably the largest that I'm aware of as far as the dollars and cents go with this. But I will say straight out that the police chief and the emergency management team that night did the correct thing. Eversource was not able to identify to the town if the downed wires were live or not by their own requirements, that they're supposed to be manned if they are live. So they were not able to provide any resources. So Chief Illingsworth put details out there to at those locations where the wires were down to protect our citizenry. So I believe we did the right thing. This is I know some communities have contacted DPU already and haven't heard anything, but Chief and I would like to take the next step and hopefully have at least one of you available to set up a meeting and talk with our Eversource representative about this.
Do you have a time and a date yet, or?
No.
So would it be more feasible to do that and let us know than see who can meet then?
We can do that also.
Does that work for both of you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to be, I certainly can make myself
Yeah,
available.
And
Yeah.
we'll try to set it up either early morning or late afternoon to make it a little more tolerable for people.
Okay.
So the upshot, were the lines live?
As far as we know, they were live.
They
Yes.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they couldn't tell us, and like Ed said, we had to go on
We
the
have
side
to
of,
we have to err on the
Safety.
side of caution and
Sure.
safety.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. Chief did the right thing.
Let's see, the open house for the grand opening of the urgent care by Cooley Dickinson Hospital, which is at the Big Y Plaza in Southampton, has been rescheduled from June 12th to June 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. With remarks being at 4:30 PM. Would Mr. Martin and anyone else be able to attend for the rescheduled date?
Yeah, I can still do that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm looking, the 27th. Yeah.
Okay, so at least 2 of us will be there.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, the Highway Department has completed the work on the Glendale Road parking lot, and that is one of the requirements for our land grant reimbursement.
And that's for the Clearwater Woodlands, right? Conservation area?
Is that the name of it?
Clearwater Woodland, yep.
Yeah.
All right. Mass DOT has informed us of some possible changes to the Glendale Road Improvement Project dealing with catch basins and gas lines. Randall Kemp, our highway superintendent, will be meeting with them later this week and will report back to us on any recommended changes. Chief Fillingsworth reports that the server replacement at the police station has been completed and that everything is running well again on the police department network. I'd like to remind everyone that the annual town election will be held Tuesday, May 21st, and it'll be from noon to 8 p.m. at the Southampton Town Hall, 210 College Highway. And then the Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 27th at 9 a.m. From the Norris Elementary School. Under old business, I'll be meeting with Chief Illingsworth and Randall Kemp, Highway Superintendent, within the next week to review the data analysis from the Gun Road Extension radar reports and bring back the recommendations and any ideas for safe traffic flow and speed along Gun Road Extension between Pomeroy Meadow Road and Route 10 from that meeting to the Select Board. Then upcoming Board of Selectmen meetings, May 28th, and June Select Board meetings are to be determined.
Do we want to set the June now, or do we want to wait till Matt to get here?
Yeah. Why don't we wait until he gets here?
Okay.
It'll be a few minutes yet.
Okay. Okay. Francine, do you have anything?
No, the Master Plan Implementation Committee rescheduled its meeting from last night until next Monday, the 20th at 7 o'clock in the second floor conference room.
Okay. Rini?
I think the only committee that met was the Open Space Review Committee. We had the final of 3 programs from the Neighborhood Project Grant, and it was a hike on Wolf Hill Sanctuary. We caught a beautiful day, which was fortunate given the weather lately, and we had a wonderful hike on Saturday, and Alder Pond was gorgeous, and it was led by a naturalist, and then there was a picnic lunch at Conant Park, so it was a wonderful series of 3 programs, and then Thursday night is our Open Space Review Committee where we'll finalize the various activities of the grant and other information. None of the other committees have met since last week's town meeting and select board meeting.
Okay, and I have nothing since last meeting, so that's all set. Old business, Memorial Day Parade, information and invitations. I know we all have an invitation in our files. On
Yes,
Monday, May 27th. Is anybody from the select board available to go?
I plan on going. I also have Rich and Nancy here. I don't know if you wanted to, they're the ones that are the people that usually organize it, so.
Would you like to come up here and say something? Yeah, we make you come up to the podium and give your name and address.
My name is Richard LeClaire, 55 Strong Road, past commander of the American Legion. I opened my mouth and said I would do it this year, which
That's
I
a good
had
thing.
retired, and now I'm back in it again. We're getting everything together, slowly but surely, with your great assistance. Thank you so very much for all your help. Still need a lot of help from the town, but we pretty much got it together. I'm only short one person, that's the keynote speaker. Still haven't found one yet. I'm still looking. I haven't wrapped somebody over the head yet.
What type of speaker are you looking for? This is going out, so maybe there's somebody out there that could
I'm
help you.
looking for somebody, I'd like to get a veteran to talk about Memorial Day, what it means to them.
Okay.
And since this is a Memorial Day, is a remembrance,
Right.
not just a party, but a remembrance of all the past and present veterans. And that's what our big thing is.
So if we have a veteran out there that's willing to come forward, even if there's two of them, they should contact you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And if they can't get a hold of you, they can get a hold of Ed, and he'll put him or her in contact with you.
Absolutely. But our agenda's doing good.
Good?
We're getting everything finalized, and like I said, we're almost there.
Great.
We're just praying for good weather. I don't want to go into schools again.
Yeah, I
I want
know
to be
you-
outside.
Yeah, it's much nicer.
Yes.
Actually, can I ask a question about the speaker? Is it important that it be a Southampton resident?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I'd like to just get a veteran to speak about Memorial Day. Doesn't have to be a Southampton person,
Okay.
and that's the big thing. is to
So
get
that
some-
opens it up more even.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
We have him speak at the cemetery, and then a few words at the green.
Right.
And we've already picked our Citizen of the Year, so we're all set there.
That'll be a surprise then.
Yes, hopefully.
Good.
I haven't heard, so it'll be a surprise to me.
I just want to say thank you to Cindy Palmer, too, who we're supposed to meet and do all the invitations and get the invitations out, but she took it upon herself and ended up taking care of everything.
Fantastic.
So thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you so very much. Have you any questions for me?
No, I mean, it looks like we have a 7:30 pancake breakfast at the church. 8:30, the marchers gather at Norris. Then the parade commences at 9. So that's the schedule.
And there'll be a little guy in front telling them to get off there and go. They all want to gather around in the parking lot and talk, and I says, no, go, get out there. People want to see you.
I'm afraid to ask what you mean by little guy. You, oh, that's you? Oh, okay,
I'll be there with my cane and I'll be marching.
great,
Well, thank you
Well,
for
we
doing it
appreciate it.
again. You look great.
yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank you
very
very
much for
much.
all your help.
That's a great honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So before we go forward, I'm going to jump back, now that Matt's here. We were talking about the June meeting dates, Matt, and we just wanted to wait for you. Yeah.
If we stuck with the every other, it would be the 28th and then the 11th.
Correct, the 11th and the 25th again.
Right.
Yeah, I've got it populated too. So can people do June 11th and June 25th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so let's put those down.
Okay. John,
Yes.
Lucy has.
Oh, you want to? Thanks.
Lucy Dalton, 10 Strong Road, interim town clerk. I just wanted to let you know that if we're doing a special election, the warrant has to be done 14 days before.
Right.
So you're going to have to sign it. So depending on what date you choose.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to choose either 18th or 25th.
Okay, just to let you know, though, the 25th is getting close to the end of the month.
So if we select the 18th, we're good?
That's fine. The 35 days is the 11th, June 11th. The 18th is close to the end of the school year, so
And the 18th was your preference of the two, wasn't it?
I talked to the treasurer collector, and we had thought that the 18th was a good date.
Okay, so while you're,
The 11th is 35 days.
so while you're up here, Lucy, let's just go to new business and we'll settle this. We need to vote to call the special election, and the two dates that are suggested are the 18th and 25th. It looks like Lucy and Ed both are saying the 18th is the preferred one. We all don't have to be here, obviously. It's the general election that, but I just want to check my
18th is,
calendar.
You know, the 19th
When is
is
school
what?
out?
When does school get out?
The 19th,
So the 8th?
yeah,
Oh, I agree.
right.
So the 18th works for both? Okay. Okay, so if everybody's in agreement, do we need a motion for that, Ed?
Yes, please.
I move that we call the special election for June 18th.
Okay, second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Great.
Who made the motion? Francine?
Yeah.
Francine?
And the second?
Matt.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will have to have you guys sign the warrant
Sure.
as soon as,
Yep.
I'll start on it tomorrow.
Okay. Anything more on the Memorial Day Parade?
Sorry, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
If I get the warrant ready, you guys can probably sign it on the 28th.
Sure.
That's
Whenever you're
possible.
ready, let us know.
You kept one of these for your file, right?
So fiscal 19 budget and expense review. Looks like the revenues go through March 31st.
Correct.
only.
Oh, so this isn't the, okay.
So I haven't been able to get access, so let me go in here. So the revenues through March, even though it says 4/30, is through March 31st. And the expense report, is that accurate through April 30th?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay, so why don't we start with the expense report through April? So that's 10/12s or 5/6, whatever that comes out to be. Let me figure it out,
You want to do the expense report first?
if you don't mind, yeah.
Okay.
It's 10 months.
Yeah, it's 10 months. That percentage is 83%.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just quickly go down and see what questions we have.
I didn't see many things out of line. My only concern was that the bottom line for expenses and was like $900,000 more than the revenue, but now that I know the revenue is a month behind, I feel better.
Okay. And just, I know a concern we've been talking about along the way is just going out to all the departments. I'm sure you speak with them about that, Ed, is that we don't want to see a big, huge
Spend at the end.
expenditure at the end just to spend money.
Correct.
And there was, I think, at least one thing from last year was that just was not an appropriate way of spending down the budget. I don't want to go into the details since we know, but if you can just keep an eye on that for us, that would be appreciated.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Any other questions on the expense side in general or specific line items? And again, I know we probably say it every time we review it, but we want to give a lot of credit to the department heads because they're doing a great job this year in 99% of the cases.
Okay.
So the revenues, again, although it says to 430.19, they're really to 331.19, which is 70-something%.
Mm-hmm. On the description, we've said this before, on the description, are these years correct? I mean, we're talking about fiscal year 16, 17?
No, that was asked
So
to
if we
have
could-
the software company
Yeah.
repair that or fix
Okay.
that.
Is that the software company or is that just us inputting it? We need to go in and change it?
No, I believe that's the
They have
software
to do-
company.
Yeah, so if we could have that changed, especially for the year end, so. Is there any questions on the revenue?
Yeah, and on the department section, department revenue,
What page is that, Francine?
I looked at it online, so I didn't look at the paper version. Let me see.
4?
It would be page,
Yeah, that's chapter 90, money on page 4.
where the heck is it? For some reason, I can't find it in here. I was looking at it online, and I guess my question was, and there's no one here from accounting or the treasurer's office, is it a timing issue, or are we that far not going to make those revenue numbers? One in particular, Board of Health, stood out to me.
So if you're looking at department revenue, it's on page 1 in the middle.
Mm-hmm,
So is that what you're looking at? There's Board of Health there, for instance, it's
yeah.
behind by
68,
about
68.
14,000. Yeah,
I got it. I have it now. Yeah, so if you just, I mean, I just happened to pick that one out because, the projected revenue was like $45,000. I think they're somewhere around 13,000. I guess my question is it a timing thing, or is it unlikely that they will collect that money?
Well, the Board of Health, if that's the one we're talking about, it's 45,000, but their actual is 30,000. They're behind by about 14.
No, yeah. Then,
So they're off about 6-7% as of this point.
okay. That was one.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking at a different report, because honestly, that was the number I remembered and wrote down.
Actually, Highway Department, was actually
Highway,
much less, but it's smaller numbers, too.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
transfer station,
Now, the Highway Department, a lot of the revenue comes in with the bags and the permits, I would think.
Well, that should come in under transfer station.
Oh,
Yes.
The highway should be like curb cuts and things like
Oh,
that.
okay. So that has to do with the construction end of it?
Yes.
Okay. Since it's a question, Ed, maybe you can ask Randall about that.
Yeah, I will.
I mean, it may be a simple answer if we're not doing as many curb cuts, but. Fire department inspections, again, that's predicated on going in and doing the inspections.
Okay.
The building permits, same thing, we're down by about 16,000, but we're still over the percentage, so I think we're okay there.
right, and it's kind of like the season when people would be requesting them. I
Right.
thought of that.
Exactly,
I'm just looking for, as to whether or not it's likely we're gonna get this money or not.
yeah.
And that's why your caution about not spending money
Right.
yet, if we
Yeah.
don't, not sure that we have it in.
I think the motor vehicle excise, it's at 79%, but it's got 211,000 to go.
Mhm.
And the real estate taxes is down by about 3 million. But again, it's at 74%, so percentage-wise is okay, but 3 million is a big number. But I trust both departments are doing their best.
But the last tax bill was due May 1st, and so it
Right.
may not have all been recorded yet.
Right. Any other questions on either of those reports? Okay.
No.
Hampshire Regional Budget and Expenditures and Agreement Review, that's sitting there. East Street Bridge update, Ed?
Yeah, I'll just let you know that I did talk with John Furman from VHB this week, and they have the draft geotechnical report in their hands. The next step to actually finish that up is they have to do some sound borings of cross-sections of the riverbed there, and they have been hampered by our excessive precipitation levels and the water flow for this particular year, so they're a little bit behind, and they're waiting for hopefully some dry weather and the flow in the river to slow down a bit so they can get in and do that portion, the next portion of that.
Okay. Select Board, do you have a question, Matt?
I just have one question on it. I mean, are we able to extend that grant?
I'm in contact with the governor's office and have asked that. I've been led to believe that we will be able to. I'm still waiting to firm that up with them, and I expect to know in the next week or so.
I mean, we're clearly making progress.
Oh, yeah.
We're not gonna
Absolutely.
hit that deadline, and it would be worth just making sure that it's still there.
So as soon as you find out, even if it's before a meeting, maybe
Yeah,
just let
I'll
us
shoot you
know.
off an email.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because actually VHB is asking if we need anything out of them to show MassWorks that we are making progress, and that's another pathway that they have.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to lose the grant.
No.
Select Board Annual Report, we went over that last week, had a couple minor changes, but it looked pretty comprehensive. What do you need from us on that?
Just those final changes, and I did put in the pack the new licensing report that would go with this year's, so you can see that.
So is that in the packet, Ed?
Yes. It should be on page, let's see.
Yeah.
I put it in there. Huh, maybe I didn't.
No, it's in,
Yeah, it's in
Is
here.
it? Okay, I just didn't mark, I
here.
just didn't note the page.
on page 33.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still not getting in, so. So is there anybody have any questions on that, or can we put our stamp on it and get it ready to send out?
I'm fine with it.
Me too.
I didn't see the corrections, but they were, like you said, minor.
Yeah, there's just minor things. Francine?
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay. You need a motion on that, Ed, or?
No.
Okay, so great. And thank you.
Are the other departments, so they have written up theirs?
Yeah, we've got a good portion of them,
Okay.
and Judy is going through them and proofing them.
Okay.
And thanks to Rini for leading that effort. We appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, we already have the special election date. Review of annual town meeting. Our town moderator, I believe, would like to come up and say something about that. How are you?
How's everyone?
Good, thanks.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. It was a great meeting, a lot of involvement. Really proud of, the teamwork. It was really cool. A lot got accomplished. Boy Scouts led the pledge. There's 3 items I'd like to review now with you, and just, for the record, and then I'm here for any, questions you may have. No particular order. Don't want the computer to fall down. Before the meeting, the town clerk and I met, and we saw somewhere it was written that there will be a paper ballot for bonding articles, and there were 2 on the ballot. We had done this historically. I remember doing that, and then for a couple of years we didn't. Spoke with Ed with the meeting with the deputy moderator, Carl Keener, after, spoke with town accountant, spoke with the town accountant and the town clerk, and we couldn't find it. We couldn't find where it was. And we looked, we went online, we looked in the bylaws, and we decided that we weren't going to call for the paper ballot since we couldn't find it. But if there was a lot of opposition, the moderator would present, that's an option, a secret ballot, paper ballot, if people so chose, and we'll have the town vote. But the way it was going, there wasn't much opposition for the 2 articles, so no need to call. But we found it after the meeting. And it's very clear, it's right there. Article 6 in general government, and it states any town meeting required of bonding shall require the moderator to take a paper ballot count. All right, we know from now on everything is legal, but it's also in that same section. It really needs to be in the town meeting section, and somebody needs to take it out and put it in, whether that needs a town meeting vote in the future or not. But the other one is kind of curious. That one is section 8. This one's section 2. No person shall coast on or across any public sidewalk or street of the town except at such time and in such places as may from time to time be designated by the Board of Selectmen. So I plead guilty for that one also, because I don't know what it means to coast across any public sidewalk or street, but I imagine I have.
I think it depends on your age. There's different definitions as you go along.
All right,
you
we'll
know?
skip that one. All right. Article 8.
And we talked about this while the meeting was going on. We talked this immediately after. Someone texted in saying that something was improper, illegal about the budget article. And thank you for the concern, but that's not true at all for several reasons. But specifically on the public safety, excuse me, the moderator did read the sum, the amount, $1,909,469.84. And then the person who made the amendment to lower it by $30,402 did announce, read out loud, $963,392.70, reduced to $932,990.70. And that was unanimous, and that was read. The education budget, that was divided, that was separated by earlier request, and the amendment was to go from $4,636,840.28 to $4,667,242.28. So that was read, and that was voted on, and it was to increase by $30,402, and that was unanimous. Then Hampshire Regional budget, the moderator read the amount, $5,219,017, and that was an amended, monetarily wise, that was discussed, and it was 117 to 33. So all three where there was debate, tweaks, the amounts were mentioned and they were taken care of. So that's that one. Any questions on the budget? One more, sort of beating a dead horse, sorry. This is Article 10. Moderator contributed to the confusion, so I'd like to go through simple concepts, no judging, just simple what did happen. Article 10 was read by Jim LaBrie. He's not here. I would have said it anyway if he was here. The motion was not read as agreed upon earlier. And that's when everybody was pointing, because I'm waiting for the motion. So no motion was read from the select board table. Then the amended motion was introduced at the mic. And it was an amendment, I've listened to the video several times, it was an amendment to Article 10. We can't amend an article, we can only amend a motion. There was no motion on the floor. Anyway, still no motion was read at this point. Amendment to Article 10 was seconded. Moderator called Article 10, passes by majority. Votes challenged, rightly so. The moderator asked for 7 individuals to stand up and protest. I thought I missed the original motion, but I didn't. The motion was read for Article 10. Moderator announced that he had a copy of the amendment and calls for the remainder of the motion that was not read. The moderator announced his motion for Article 10 was never read, which was true. Moderator read the proposed amendment. Motion was read for Article 10 by Matt Rowland, and it was seconded. Amendment to the motion for Article 10 then was read and voted on and was amended, and then we voted on the amended motion, and it passed by majority. So that's that.
So with those issues, you're okay with the whole?
Oh, tremendously. The Article 10, sort of the revote, the first vote was never legal because there was never a motion, so there was no need to call back a motion or whatever. So no, it happens. Teamwork was great teamwork. I was really thrilled with the meeting, tremendously. So I'm good. Any questions?
It was a long meeting, but it was.
Yeah, it did. And it was the choice, and had we done the counts, we really would have gone into a second night. No judgment on that, but that would have been. But yeah, people stayed, and we quickly went along at the end, make sure we had the quorum. But
I have a question. Thank you, by the way, for the meeting. I appreciate it. I also appreciate it not going into 2 nights, even though it's late. Could you explain the correct protocol for people who are not from Southampton speaking? Because it sounded like they're supposed to be registered or something first, and we have school personnel, several of them spoke that were not previously registered or something?
yeah, nobody can speak at a town meeting unless they're a resident, unless they're a registered voter. Even if somebody owns property in town and has moved out and it's no longer their residence, they can't speak at the meeting. So I call it, they have to be vetted. And to make it efficient, we want the names up front. But as we have historically, when somebody comes up to the mic, I'm not a resident, it's not my call, you're not allowed to speak, we'll put it up for the town and everybody voting. I felt a little awkward. I had a principal, the school had not been vetted, and normally, or historically, the superintendent would come up with the names and we would get that out of the way. But those that we did vote on are allowed to speak forever, as long as, we voted on them. So that's procedure. Like to get it done all at once, it's quick, but if something happens like it did, or somebody changes their mind, then we simply said all in favor. It's really sweet, easy, and nobody really objects.
And I think the flexibility you show is what keeps the meeting going. So
Yeah, you have to have some wiggle room.
Yeah, we have to,
Yeah,
yeah.
4 corners, but wiggle room. Okay, thanks.
I've learned that term. In the
Cheers.
Thank you. Lucy, were you going to say something?
I just wanted to make the suggestion at the bylaw committee meetings, one of our meetings, we should look into the general government section and really carefully look over town meeting and general government because of the whole section with the paper ballot. So, just,
And run it by Robert.
yes.
Make sure
Yeah.
we have everything
Yeah.
that we need, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's all I just wanted to suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board and,
Sorry. I'm sorry. One more thing. Historically, town meetings, when, this is going to visitors, if you are not a town resident, normally you're supposed to be sitting on the bleachers.
really?
So, we tell, the checkers are supposed to tell the guests that they need to sit on the side, so they're not in with the,
I've never heard that. Has anybody here heard that?
Yes.
I know some towns,
Yeah.
some towns
Yeah.
so
are very
just,
strict about it.
so that way they're not in with the, the registered
So
voters.
the checkers are doing that?
Yes,
You're
they're telling them to be sitting on the bleachers, but some of them don't listen, so just so you know that. Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for backing me up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still can't get in, but, board and committee appointments, says page 34, but I can't access that. Is it in the package, the hard copy package, Ed?
It's in here,
Okay. It's here?
after the select, after the licenses.
Okay,
The very next page, you have it, right there.
got it, cool.
That's a list of the ones. Excuse me, that's the list of the ones that are coming up, but just wanted to know what the select board would like to do for a process this year. Would the select board like Judy to reach out to the boards and committees to, for them to make recommendations on people that might be looking for a reappointment, or to send letters right out to the people that are up for appointment to see if they're interested in being reappointed or not?
Yeah, most of them end June 30th, which is right around the corner, so unless anybody else has a different thought, I think they should reach out to all these folks and find out if they want to be reappointed, if they still have an interest, or importantly, if there's more people out there that might have an interest that aren't on this list also. Does that sound reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like, it'd be good that we get whether or not people intend to serve again, so that we would know what vacancies, so that before the end of June, we could hopefully find replacements for them, so that we don't go with gaps
Right.
on these committees.
And if there's anybody out there listening or sees us later on is interested in serving on a committee, if you can get a hold of Ed and let him know. That way, if an opening comes up, we'll have somebody in line. I know finance is short a couple people at this point.
I don't think they have a
Well,
Yeah.
actually.
They don't have three?
well, you cannot officially say that until after the election because of write-ins.
True. Good point, Ed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else on that?
Just a lot of appointments.
Yes. They're all going to come at once, so that'll be a long meeting, whenever that is. Citizen of the Year process recommendations. We already have a Citizen of the Year selected that they're not telling us about. Did you want to go over the process?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would think, 'cause-
Francine is the one that had actually asked me about it.
yeah, I was kind of interested in perhaps nominating someone.
Speak to that.
And I did speak to Richard, but I think what I learned from him, I learned for the first time, and I think it'd be beneficial to everyone if he were to
I'll drag you
explain to
back up.
people how we go about selecting.
Richard Leclerc, 55 Strong Road, past commander. What we do is we ask the community to recommend somebody for Citizen of the Year. They send a letter to the post or the commander of the American Legion, Southampton, Post 168, with the name of the person and information about the person. Then we usually have to have that by end of April at the latest. And we have a meeting, and we go over them, and we select one. The more we get, the better selection is. We had 2 this year, and we picked one. Some years we've had only 1, but the more they nominate, the better it is for us to select somebody, because there are a lot of people out there really justified in being Citizen of the Year.
Yeah. My
It
sense
makes
is,
it so much easier.
my sense is it's not advertised anywhere near as well as we.
No, it's probably not.
So maybe if it's yourself or whoever next year, a couple of months ahead of time, we put it on the agenda and we talk about it and we try to get the word out so you can have 10 or 12 people.
Oh, that would be fantastic. But yes, we'll try to get with you in February or March.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people out there have names of people they'd
Oh,
like to nominate.
yes, they do. But the biggest thing is we tried to get them to send us the information about the person. And the other little catch is that person has to make sure the person they pick is at the Memorial Day Parade. So we can,
That's a question for you. Is that person who's out in the crowd know that they're getting?
no,
So a
no.
complete surprise.
We've had all but one time. One time somebody found out.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they're standing out there,
Oh, that's
have no idea until I had 2 scouts go out there and escort them. So that's
A couple
the,
of years, they look surprised, but I wasn't sure if they were looking
oh
surprised
yes,
or
they
were.
are surprised. Only once.
That's cool.
That was a few years ago. But most of the time, they're totally surprised. And we usually like to get the person who nominates them to come up and talk about them. So,
Sometimes you have to get the husband or somebody to know, because otherwise, it's like, well, we're going fishing that weekend. Okay.
Is there any
little fun.
criteria that you use?
Well, the
that
biggest thing is
people
that-
should know about in making the nomination?
right. The thing is, the person that's being nominated cannot be a Legion member. That's one of our criteria. We cannot pick one of our own members.
Okay.
That's been handed down for many years. The person has to be a Southampton resident. That's the other criteria. The rest is up to the person who nominates them.
Okay. That sounds good. But
Next February or March, we'll be talking to you.
That would be great.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
I'd love
Thank
you
you.
to have a hard time picking out a person because you have so many.
There are lots of them out there.
Yeah.
We just need to have somebody
Yeah.
go out there and write up.
Got to advertise the process for you.
Yes,
Good.
Thank you so-
Appreciate you explaining that.
thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Select Board to designate someone to sign the MISA, which is the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act review for the Town Well Rehabilitation Project as the property owner. Normally, the town administrator does that, but we'd like to suggest that the water superintendent, Tom Gahn, how do you say his last name?
Gone.
Gahn?
Yeah.
Be the person designated for that, since it does deal with the Town Well project. Anybody, you want to say anything on that, Ed, or?
No, then that would be my recommendation in this particular case. And this is a strange one. It's actually a MISA review that is a preliminary that decides if there's really a MISA actual study review, but Tom is much more familiar with that property, the well, and the project than I would be, so that would be my recommendation in this particular case.
Okay, so make it official. I think I'd like to just have a motion on that.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? So pending Tom agreeing to that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So if for some reason he's not interested, you just get back to us, but I'm sure he will be.
I'm sure that'll be fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Board to sign letter of request for DEP time extension for the Southampton Water System Improvement Time Extension request for Water Department. What are we looking for the extension for it?
And I will
60 days.
read the letter because
Oh, okay.
it spells it out. There's been a couple of changes in design that have come up that is why they're looking for the extension. And the DEP has said that this specifically has to be signed or approved by the select board for the chairperson to sign on their behalf. But the town of Southampton respectfully requests a 60-day time extension to have the subject water system improvement project awarded to a general contractor by Friday, August 30th. Since the October 2018 SRF application submission, the project has been redesigned to more fully address the town's long-term water needs, specifically for the items below. The booster pump capacity was revised from 250 gallons per minute to 375 gallons per minute to better meet future demands and align with the final capacity limits, up to 750 gallons per minute, based on 2 pumps that were ultimately established in the Memorandum of Understanding between the town and the city of East Hampton. This change increased the building size, changed the piping arrangement, and increased electrical demands. Natural gas was originally planned for operating the emergency generator, but is no longer available due to the current moratorium on the new gas services as recently imposed by the local gas utility. Therefore, the emergency power system was revised to a propane system, including the siting of on-site propane storage tank and vaporizer. Glendale Treatment Building design was revised to shift all of the existing functions, power controls, instrumentation, chemical feed, from the existing Glendale well station into the new Glendale Treatment Building, thereby eliminating the existing Glendale well station as a potential weak link or failure point in the future. These revisions will provide the town with a combined facility that is updated and meets current Mass DEP requirements for chemical feed, instrumentation, and controls. The required instrumentation system was further refined to provide the town with a comprehensive SCADA and telemetry system that will facilitate the town's operation and monitoring of these critical water infrastructure assets. A live radio test, path survey, was recently conducted and showed that a 40-foot radio antenna was required at the storage tank in order to extend above the tree line and obtain a direct path to the Glendale Treatment Building and booster pump station. A partitioned room in the Glendale Treatment Building, originally designed to contain a future gas generator, was redesigned for electrical instrumentation equipment. If needed in the future, the generator would be installed adjacent to the Glendale Treatment Building. The requested time extension is essential to complete the outstanding items listed as project approval certificate restrictions outlined in a letter from Stephen J. McCurdy, DEP, to John O. Martin, Town of Southampton, RE Town of Southampton, DWSRF number 4396, DW 18-12, restricted pack dated December 21st, 2019. Ultimately, these revised plans provide for facilities that address multiple water supply issues faced by the town, redundancy issues resolved through interconnection and booster pump station, and problematic or limited controls and remote monitoring of water system operations substantially improved through state-of-the-art SCADA and radio telemetry system. And I think that should say dated December 21st, 2018.
Okay, so any thoughts or questions on this before we vote on it for me to sign it?
Yeah, I do have one. One of the things cited is that we won't have access to natural gas, so we're going to be using propane. And then when we talk about the generator, we talk about using a gas generator. Should we say a propane gas generator?
versus natural gas, if you'd like to.
I mean, that's all.
Well, except that one really doesn't exist yet, so it may be a gas generator in the future.
then?
By then,
Okay.
right, so.
So, did that answer it, or do you still want to put that in? I'm good either way.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension requested by the Water Department for the DEP, is it study or
Yeah, water system improvements, time
water system
extension.
improvement? Yep.
Okay, as written?
As written.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, just one thought, Ed, you're going to put a date on this letter, right? There's no date on
Yes.
it? Okay. Any more discussion?
Well, yeah, doesn't he need to change the date in the last paragraph?
I'll change that too.
Yeah, he'll change that. So that's the motion with those two changes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you. I'll make those changes.
So let me
During
know
the
when it's
break.
ready. Yep. Okay. Any other necessary business that can't await the May 28th regular select board meeting? Okay, we have a couple of items. One's there is a highway MS4 flyer that we need to give permission to put it into the tax bills, and that's part of the MS4.
That is, part of our
Grant.
compliance with the
Compliance,
MS4 permit for this year.
Just looking for it here.
The flyer was developed by Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Does everybody have in their package?
Yep.
Okay, I saw it before the meeting, so I'm okay with it. Is there any questions on it?
I have a question about it. I know it's a standard form, but then Southampton added a little note in the bottom. It said on a couple of places on here, like number 2 says leave grass clippings where they fall. And then on the little chart, it says leave grass clippings to fertilize lawns naturally. And then on the bottom, Southampton adds grass clipping disposal drop off at the transfer station. So I think it's a little bit of a mixed message.
I agree with that. It is. I mean, is there a reason why that needs to even be there?
Well, there are different ways you can do it. Number one, if you, shall we say, prescribe to the fact that mulching your grass clippings and you do it small enough is good for your lawn, you can do that. You're only supposed to take about no more than a third at a time, so if your grass has grown long, you really shouldn't try mulching it. If you don't mulch it and put it back in, the transfer station will take the clippings, and you can dispose of them there. So there's a couple of different ways to go about it.
So these are options.
They're options. They're all options.
Okay, is that?
I'm one that has, for 30 years, refused to drop my grass clippings back into my lawn, and have finally actually, if I get to it every about 4 days, I will actually have started to do it in the last year. But until that time, they all went to the yard waste facility.
That makes sense, Rini, or do we want to make some
Doesn't make
changes?
sense to me.
Does not?
I do not like the idea of the message contradicting the message.
Yeah, I just don't get why we need to advertise it. I mean,
we're-
people that know, they know it's there, and they do what they will. I don't know why we need to advertise
Well,
it.
this advertising is
And we're
part of,
advertising something that's free, too, so it's not like,
but it's part of our,
But it's part of our
Requirements under the
requirement under
MS.
the MS4 permit to let people know this and get the information out.
did
to
you see?
let people know that they can get rid of their grass clippings? That's
Yes.
part of the permit?
Yeah, or that they can mulch them into their lawn.
Is this a standard flyer you said, or did we make this up from scratch?
Pioneer Valley Planning put it together for us. Basically, the only thing after they did it is I took a look at it, and if you look at that text box on the back, I didn't like the fact that it really didn't have anything that said that it was really sponsored by or put out by the town of Southampton. So I had the highway department add that line in that says town of Southampton and added the town seal to the text box.
So would you like Ed to go back and try to have this, the wording changed, or put as optional, or take something out? How do you want to go with this?
I just don't think, the whole point of this is to talk about what's good for stormwater and the environment. It says right there, glass clippings should be left on the lawn to decompose, and then we say you can drop them off at the town. I can't support it saying that. I just don't think it makes any sense. I think it's a mixed message.
Okay, but we got to come up with some decision here. I don't disagree, it's a mixed message, and I think it's just options they're giving, although it doesn't say options.
It does say on the top, it says, consider your options on the
Oh, I-
reverse side.
On the other side, yes, okay. Okay, so we can either make some changes, or we can have a motion to accept it as is, and knowing that people will know their options. And I don't know about you folks, but some of the grass, I pick it up, and others I leave on the ground, depending on where it is. So let's start this way. Is there a motion to accept it as written?
So move.
Okay, is there a second? I'm going to second it for discussion, because we need to move this. So what changes would,
Unless it's required, I'm with Rini on deleting the bottom section. I don't think it's even necessary to do, unless it is necessary. Unless it is
when
necessary.
you say the bottom
Delete the bottom-
section, where are
bottom
you
section.
talking?
Take out I don't get why we even need that in there.
Where
Why
it
do we
says
need to
town of
advertise?
Southampton?
Yeah,
This is because
take it
it's
out.
going out as part of the requirements of our MS4.
It's not, I mean, Ed, did you make that clear? Like, we have to tell people that they can drop off yard waste at our highway, at our transfer station?
So you're,
Well, if they accept it, why wouldn't you want to let people know that?
Because we're trying to get people to fertilize their lawn with it.
but also if the,
But if the grass clippings are too long, if you don't get to them,
The
you're
question
actually
is it
damaging your lawn.
is it required to notify
That is the
the
question.
residents that this is what they can do?
boy, I hate to say this, but I think we're spending a lot of time on this, and we got to just come to a quick agreement. Robert, do you have a
I'm
suggestion?
a mini lifetime resident, Robert's Lake 15 East Street, mini lifetime resident of Manhattan, even though I was raised in Fall River and schooled in Boston. Paul Wing taught me how to ride my newly bought Husqvarna tractor. I had no clue what that tractor was about. And he taught me well, and he taught me to leave the clippings as they are to fertilize the lawn in the summer. And if the lawn is too high, the sun will bake the clipping, and then the next they'll chop it up.
Right.
But at a certain time in early fall, pick them up. Don't let them on the lawn and take them to the transfer station. So it's a mixture.
Mixture. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. I'm going to take a vote on it and see where it goes. So all in favor of leaving as is, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 3 and 1, staying as is. Thank you.
And who did the motion and who did the second?
I made the
Francine
motion.
did the motion, Matt did the second?
Okay.
No, I didn't do the second, you did.
I did the second? Oh, yeah, I did the second, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Second.
Jeez.
And 3-1 was the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
So normally, it would be the chair of the select board to sign the DOJ bulletproof grant application, but we're asking that we designate Chief Illingworth to do that, since he is the police chief, and that would be, I think, a nice way of applying for the grant. So can we have a motion to designate Chief Illingworth to sign the DOJ bulletproof grant application instead of the chair?
So moved, but I don't have this in front of me. Should I?
No, it's just penciled in on
It just
here.
came in, yeah.
Can we have a second?
Yeah, it came up this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's basically just allowing the chief to do it instead of the chair. I think it's just a nice designation for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. No personal change forms. And licenses, permits. First up, the beer guy, David Capriati, for Southampton Harley Davidson on 17 College Highway. One day beer and wine, which is May 25th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have the application, wine and malt, check received, not on town property. We have the hold harmless, open to the public, yes. And the source of the alcohol is provided by the licensee, which is Mr. Capriati. Approved wholesaler is Williams Distributors. Anything missing on this application, Ed?
No, in fact, all three of these are all in order.
Okay, so if nobody has an issue, I'm going to take all three of them at the end here. Did you want to say something, David, or?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm standing up to be here.
No problem.
I move to accept all three.
Well, let's go over
No?
the other two just to be sure. Linda,
I thought we were just reviewing them amongst ourselves, because Ed said that.
no. Well, I want to make sure we put it on record, otherwise it won't get on the record. Linda Tucson, Conant Park, one day beer and wine, June 29th, 2 to 8, retirement party. Everything's in, Ed? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Southampton Historical Society, Conant Park, one day beer and wine, September 14th, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. to celebrate Southampton. I'll drink to that one. Okay, that's the only three. So have a motion to accept all three as read.
So move.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and David, I'm assuming you're going to wait around to pick up yours, is that? Okay.
Hope it's a nice day.
Yes. In the meantime, Francine, you want to read the warrant you signed?
Sure. Okay, warrant W 19-43C for $2,776.56. Warrant 19-43V to rescind that warrant in a negative $2,776.56. Warrant P 19-44 for $269,646.69. PD 19-44 for $43,660.47. And W 19-45 for $1,694,940.54.
Thank you. Okay, other documents requiring signature, there's none. Minutes to approve, there's none. Pending items, Greenway, we have an update. We're trying to get the chair to the meeting to give us an update on that. Ed, any updates on any of the other pending items in there?
No, I will have my self-evaluation to you for the next meeting.
Okay, great. And once Ed gets us a self-evaluation, we'll start our process. Okay.
Do you want to sign these? Did you already?
Let Rini sign them and back to me. Okay. Open time for the public.
There's no other updates on any of the other ones? On the pending?
Nope, he said there's no other updates. Hi, come on up.
Margaret Larson, 9 David, member of the Hampshire Regional School Committee. Since Francine missed our meeting on Monday, I thought we might, or last Monday, whenever it was, I thought you might want an update. Sure. And I'm sorry, I should have thought to be on the agenda. Graduation is Friday, June 7th, and happy early birthday. The pancake breakfast that Tammy organizes so beautifully is on the 5th. Graduation will again take place at John M. Green Hall in Northampton. There was a few parent requests to have that changed to the high school. The school committee decided not to take that up back at the beginning of the year because that would severely limit the number of invitees who could come with the graduates. So there is a cost, of course, associated with using John M. Green Hall, but we feel it's more important to have people attending. At our meeting, we had a guest from Cummington. So the Central Berkshire Regional School District several years ago closed the Berkshire Trail Elementary School in Cummington, and that kind of left them at a loss, and they've been struggling ever since to figure out how to place their kids and fund the programs for their children. They have about 126 students, of which 26 are now enrolled in the Berkshire Regional School District. Their average per pupil expenditure for what they were required to give to the district is $34,000 per pupil, which is about $14,000 more than some of the other local towns. It is more expensive because they're more spread out. So they just wanted to let us know that they were experiencing these issues. They are trying to remove themselves from the Berkshire Regional School District, and they have thoughts of sending those children to Hampshire Regional. So this was the first conversation of, I'm sure, what will be a number of conversations.
Geographically, is that commutable by bus? I can't picture it, yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's a long bus ride, but, and they would pay for transportation, so.
To get out of that school district, is it just a vote of their town, or do they have to go through a legislative
Well,
process?
they voted, the school committee voted, but there's some legislative, apparently, tasks that need to be completed, and additionally, there's some issues with the OPEB funding. It's all the OPEB. Yeah.
Use your mic, Ed.
I don't want to interrupt Margaret, but when
No,
she's...
please.
Okay. Actually, the school committee and the individual towns preliminarily voted to allow Cummington to leave. There'll have to be another vote of the towns again, because what they found was it all hinged, no one wanted to hold them in, but it all hinged on the OPEB. And when the actuarial study came back on the OPEB, what the Central Berkshire School Committee actually asked for, and I can't remember the actual number, but it was well over $1 million.
Before you go anywhere, Ryan, everything just went silent. I just got a text.
Yes, I just let him know.
You did too? Okay.
So the OPEB study actually came back, and the number was crushing to the town of
Yes,
Cummington.
close to 2 million.
Yeah. So, and actually
Back
this...
on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this occurred before I left there, so, and probably a good 6 to 9 months before I left. The conversations are still going on. Cummington, and there was discussion over whether Cummington had, first of all, they didn't agree with the fee or the number, so they were haggling over that. The second portion of what they were haggling over was Cummington was asking if they could pay it over time, and the school committee at the time was saying, no, you have to pay it to it all at once. So it was still up in the air. I mean, it was going to be amicable to go, but it all hinged on the final discussions and the agreement on what was the final OPEB number Cummington owed to Central Berkshire and how it was going to be paid.
So it's very preliminary, I know,
Very
but
preliminary.
if in general, if we want to accept another town, how does that work from the regional point
Well,
of view?
you know, I'm not sure that they would be part of the regional agreement. It might be something similar to what we've done with Worthington. if an agreement is drawn up. I don't actually know how they would.
Who decides on that? Because I know there's a lot of questions that come up about Worthington, good, bad, and different.
These are answers I do not have.
Okay, so as
According
we
to the
go
regional
along-
agreement, it has to be approved by the
I would
towns.
think
The
so.
towns,
Like
I would
the 5
assume that,
towns, yeah.
yes, if the towns are coming in, if, you know,
So
that-
maybe redoing the agreement, if we go that way, would be good for everybody.
I think legally they have to be part of a school district. So I don't know if that's true or not, but no.
I'm not sure how that works, because I know of a couple out there that really aren't
Aren't? Okay.
officially part of a school district, but there's been unofficial agreements or whatever on, this capacity, we'll take them in, and
So
it's
obviously,
operated that
Like
way.
a lot of school choice then?
Yeah, some of it could be through school choice, some of it could be.
Yeah, we
what-
couldn't accept
what-
that many
Yeah,
through
what
school choice.
Hampshire has,
Well-
basically reached out and done, existingly with Worthington,
Right.
so.
yeah, but it's a good update and some potential there. so.
Possibly, yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so thanks
Um,
for
the oth-
updating us.
The other, I'm still going, is that okay?
No, I was just updating on that.
Okay, all
yeah.
right, good. The other item is that Superintendent Osborne proposed to combine several of the school committee meetings with all the other school committee meetings. So I think it was 3 times a year, that rather than meet independently, we would meet together and possibly work on some joint issues. My concern with that is that we also need to attend to our own business. We only have 9 or 10 meetings a year, and to use 3 of those when we don't really have time, our meetings will last 2 hours, just taking care of our own business. So that was my concern. One of the meetings that was also eliminated was, I think, a critical one in January, when we're starting to talk about budgets. So I'm personally uncomfortable with that. I let the superintendent know that, and so I think he's revising his proposal based on that feedback.
Is that something that the school committee votes on?
We would vote to do that, yes.
Right, right.
Yes.
So he can
Well,
propose it.
It would have to go to all the school committees, so they would all have to vote for it.
Okay, so, but, you're the boss of the superintendent, so he could propose anything, and you're the ones that would decide whether that happens.
Right, which is why we said no,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
That's good. It's kind of like us getting together with the other
Yeah.
finance committees and select boards. It's a good
Yeah, I
idea.
think the idea is good. I just think we need to hone the idea a little bit so that it makes sense, that we can still, accomplish what we need to accomplish.
But the conversation's going on, which is good.
Yes,
So your committee would meet 3 times, 3 fewer times?
if his proposal went through as written, that would be the case. But one of the options maybe is to meet a little bit earlier before we meet together. I don't feel like that would be enough time. A half an hour is not enough time for
Could you
us to.
just do it on a separate date and add 3
Or
meetings
just
to
add 3 more meetings?
Well, so that was actually one of my suggestions, but Superintendent Osborne already feels like he attends a lot of meetings, and so I think that was his concern, and I said that I'm empathetic to that, but that is your job.
Kind of goes back to what Rini said, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And known before starting.
No, I know I'm only supposed to have 5 minutes, but I do have a written statement. Is that okay? All right. All right, so I'd like to address the Select Board's decision to recommend that the town reject the Hampshire Regional level funded budget last week. This is my own perspective on the matter, although it's informed by conversations with citizens of Southampton, Hampshire Regional School Administration, other school committee members, and officials in the other 4 towns. I've also discussed this with Tammy Walunas and Bill Curran, and feel comfortable that this represents their views as well. The reality is that this is a difficult budget year, and likely portends more difficult years ahead. The reality is that Norris has been chronically underfunded, and you spent many long hours working on the budget to figure out how to allocate the money they need. The reality is that none of you relished having to make these type of difficult decisions. However, the reality is also that our own principal and business managers spent countless hours working on the HRHS budget, squeezing line items here and cutting employee hours there, trying to meet the needs of the towns and the needs of the students. The reality is, if there were to be further cuts, that would likely mean the loss of our French program leaving us as one of only 25% of schools in the entire state that offer just one foreign language, and the only one in the area. The reality is that with the declining population and increasing mandates, HRHS is already dipping into its school choice monies to balance the budget, which is how Norris found itself in its current predicament. The reality is, and even though we knew you had concerns about the HRHS line item, it was listed in the column entitled Board of Selectmen recommended. The reality is that the action you took without any meaningful, courteous advance notice was both unexpected and unwelcome, especially in a negotiating year when you already have one school with teachers working without a contract. Your intention may have been to let the voters decide, but the reality is that you effectively denounced the budget. Now I want to address how your decision has been perceived, because perception is also reality. When you decided to recommend as a body that the town reject the budget, the perception is that you don't trust your elected school committee members to make informed, sound decisions on the town's behalf. This perception was exacerbated by the fact that your spokesperson was Francine, the only 5-town community member to be literally given a seat at the table, as the school committee agonized over our vote to approve the lowest budget presented by Kristen. When you stated that you wanted admin to go back and do some cutting, the perception is that you are willing to lose programs and teachers, leading our teachers and parents to wonder about Southampton's commitment to the school. When you chose to specifically compare Norris and HRHS, the perception is that you were directly pitting the schools against each other, regardless of your protestations to the contrary. When you chose to mention the school choice and E&D funds, which are both fiscally responsible and evidence of sound budget management, and derisively called them rainy day funds, the perception is that HRHS is mismanaging its budget and hoarding money under the stewardship of the principal, business manager, and school committee. When you invited the 5 towns for a meeting and listened to them state that they intend to fully fund their elementary schools in HRHS, yet still asked Southampton to reject that budget, the perception is that their long-standing commitment to local and regional education is of no consequence. When you made this decision immediately before a town meeting, with little to no advance notice to the administration or your own elected school committee members, the perception is that you don't value the partnership we have worked so diligently to improve. If it sounds like I'm taking this personally, that's because I am. Of all the towns, you have some of the only school committee reps who consistently speak up at school committee meetings, who consistently volunteer for time-consuming subcommittees, who consistently attend select board and 5-town meetings, and who made it our mission to create a more transparent relationship of mutual respect and trust. It was Southampton reps who moved to vote for the lowest presented budget, in the face of resistance from other town reps and to the dismay of the HRHS principal and teachers. It was Southampton reps who worked behind the scenes to secure the vote to add John to the negotiating subcommittee. It was Southampton reps who showed up here to answer your questions, interrupt the principal's personal time to get clarification, and agree to return with answers to more questions. It was Southampton reps who recently pushed back on a proposal from the superintendent because it wasn't in the best interest of the town or the committee. Last weekend, I ran into a Southampton citizen at an event in Northampton. I don't know her well, but she approached me and said how happy she was that the town voted for the school budget. She also expressed dismay with what she termed the select board's strange decision. Then she shrugged and asked, "But what did you expect from them?" My answer, a lot more.
Thank you. Did you want to?
Well, I guess if you say you took it, I don't want to, you and I have started to have some conversations subsequent
We
to
have.
the select board meeting. I said to you that my intention going into, before our regular meeting, that I had no intention to speak for or against, which I didn't. In the conversation and planning our role in the meeting, it was raised. So I spoke exactly, and you know what it is that I said. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm looking and saying, we have, you know, a much larger issue to contend with. And I think my words at the meeting were could we find any more savings? Those were my words. I was not proposing to cut school programs. I was looking for some way of finding some kind of cost-effective efficiency. I think I've raised the point, at what point is it diminishing returns in terms of numbers of school choice students versus the numbers of fully funded students in the program. My only interest is making certain that we live up to our commitment, not just to Hampshire, not just to Norris, but to every department that we have in town. And that's my honest and fair appraisal of what my intentions are when I attend those meetings and what I'm looking at. There isn't anything that I have ever said that reflects that I think anyone at the high school is not doing a great job. My concern is that, and you can look at that same financial report that I looked at, when it said unencumbered, $833,000, if they had said, just encumbered the money, then it would have showed me that it was intended for the purposes in which it was budgeted, but it didn't say that. Now, when they went back and looked at it, and maybe, I don't know who put it in those terms, but unencumbered meant that it had no intended purpose between then and the end of the school year. And that's my feeling. That was the place that I was looking and saying, is there some savings? $20,000, $50,000, whatever it could be. That was where I was coming from. And I think with the full, with every intention of doing the right thing. It was really the town's decision ultimately to pass or not pass the budget. And the fact that they did is the town's decision. My vote that night was the same as every other person's vote. And and I voted my conscience. I voted the way I thought I needed to vote with the interest of the town at heart. To say that the select board in that category, and John and I talked about this, recommended the budget. The school committee recommends the budget. By the time it gets to the article in the warrant, it's the school committee who recommends the budget, not necessarily the select board. It's up to the town at that point to make the decision. And so that's really all I have to say. I go to those meetings, I try to educate myself about what's going on in the school. I come back to these meetings and I represent what goes on at those meetings to the rest of the select board and to the audience. And I don't think I've ever been critical. I think I've come in and said, what a great job you're doing up there, and some of the challenges that I can't fathom that schools and school administrators have to face these days with the issues in school in terms of security and everything else. So
I do believe...
the fact that it's gotten to this point
Could I mention
is
something
I'm
also?
just,
Can I just address it very
That's
quickly, what you said specifically? I do believe that when we had our 5-town meeting, that Bobby went through a list of exactly what those unencumbered
Yes.
funds were to
Yes.
be used for.
Except there was $326,000 that she didn't have a number for at that point. She said there would be numbers. So I think
Correct.
that particular point, she didn't put it on the statement properly. If it says unencumbered, that means it's not going. So that was an error on their side that we brought up, and once it was
And
explained,
it was
we
answered,
understood it.
right. And it
But
wa-
that was an error in the paperwork. That's what brought up the question.
Yes, and I think those kinds of questions are wonderful. And I also, I don't question any of your individual commitment to education. And I hear you, what you're saying here. What I'm telling you, what the perception was due to that particular action in that particular moment at that particular event, based on the reaction in the crowd, based on a reaction from teachers, based on the reaction of administration. And I thought it was important that you understand that your individual votes are your individual votes, but when you came forward as a group, that sends a different message.
I don't disagree,
Yeah,
but go
I just
ahead.
want to mention that the night that we went over the budget 3 times and we painstakingly tried to find money for Norris, we took $34,000 from the stormwater and took it out of another fund,
Capital fund?
the capital fund, and our highway department was not happy about that either. Obviously, he stood up and said, it should have been out of my own budget. I appreciate Hampshire Regional. I think it's a fantastic school. I also think Norris is a great school, and I think that you two in particular have done a phenomenal job. You answer every questions, and same with Bobby and Principal Smitty. I do think I have the right to, like, we had more attention to the budget Hampshire Regional than we have ever done in the past, in my experience, including when I was on the school committee. The amount of, like, town meetings with all the different town members, and also all the discussions here. I do reserve the right to vote against a budget, and I would have been just as happy to have $24,000 from Hampshire Regional Budget go over to Norris, and then they would get exactly what they were looking for, instead of holding on to over $300,000 in a different fund. So I kind of reserve the right to do that. I voted against things that got passed, and I voted for things that, I just feel like I've spent a lot of time, too, paying a lot of attention to this and hearing a lot from people, and I understand, I hear you when you talk about the perception, but I also think that we went over the budget 3 times and took money from other departments in order to give it to Norris, and we ended up $24,000 short. And I think that's not okay either.
I agree. I don't think that's okay. I also don't think it's okay that our principal and our business manager have to spend hours doing the same thing to the Hampshire Regional budget and pulling here and cutting people's hours, and because that's exactly what they were doing the same thing.
Right.
They were pulling from various funds in order to keep the budget because we just didn't have enough income coming in.
Right,
So
but
we're all in the same position here.
But that's their job to manage that budget.
Of course it is, but and as is your job to help manage this budget, and it's painful. And my statement is that we were all in the same boat. We were all making.
I don't think we're all in the same boat. I think one of the issues is, and again, we said at the town meeting, our intent was not to turn down the budget. It was to send it back, have a relook at it, and see if there was other ways to come up with money. Our budget increase went up $128,000 from Hampshire Regional this year because revenues were down. Is this a trend where next year it's the same thing? So the Hampshire Regional is going to start absorbing more and more of the budget, and if we don't at some point say, we've got to share in this whole thing, you folks do a great job doing it, but you're there to look at Hampshire Regional. I've seen you both in action, you're very dedicated to it, but you're looking at the Hampshire Regional box, where we're looking at several boxes, and you've said where people have come to you saying they didn't like bringing this up, they weren't for it. We've had probably just as many, if not more, coming to us saying, help Norris School. Hampshire Regional always gets what they want. Mm-hmm. Whether we agree or disagree, that's our job to do that. And to ask you to go back on a $5.2 million budget and see if you can decrease that 128, that's only 2.4% of the total budget. My personal mind, you don't have to cut any services to get that money. It's a matter of going line by line. I've managed $1 million budgets for a long time. So there's a way to do it without cutting services. I know when they talked about it at the Hampshire Regional meeting is, we're going to cut the second bus. All of a sudden it was, boom, we're cutting a bus, and that's students. So you don't want to affect the students. There's a way to cut it. If you're not getting 128 back, maybe 50,000. And I know you disagree on the E&D budget. It is a rainy day fund for the appropriate use, as you've said, a roof or whatever. That's fine, that's $500,000. School choice, a rainy day fund. But what we asked is, can we take a little from each of that to put to Norris so that we can make that whole, or can we give more to the police and the fire? So our intent was to have you relook at it, and to, I think, the way you wrote it, to vilify us for saying stuff like that. I don't think the town meeting was against us bringing it up like your statement said. I think we're listening to the constituents. We're doing what we need to do. It goes to town meeting. We all get up there and vote. And whichever way it goes, it goes. I was for sending it back. It got voted down. I'm fine with that. I did what I needed to do as a select person. What's next? And that's the way we have to look at things, I think.
I felt that I did my responsibility. The fact that it passed was fine. Just go on and we're going to go forward with it.
But
That's what it is, and we'll figure out a way.
I apologize if you feel vilified, because that's why I started the statement with, I know none of you wanted to do this.
I know they started the
all of
statement, but
those
then it went,
things.
you know, after that, and the fact
Because
that,
the after is the perception of a group of select board members, because you do wield authority
Yes.
that other people in the town do not wield,
correct.
and that you came out as a block primarily without giving us the courtesy of some kind of acknowledgement ahead of time that this was going to happen, more than a half an hour.
We talked about this at our meetings.
What you said, the last meeting that I attended, was town meeting is going to be interesting. You did not say that as a group, you were going to decide and have one person represent you to say that the select board believes that this should be sent back.
But it wasn't
Putting the
decided.
school into
It was
chaos.
decided at the meeting.
I
right
understand,
before.
but you can understand from our perspective
Absolutely,
that there
yeah.
isn't that kind of, and we do feel like we have we have been building this relationship. I don't think the relationship, is damaged long-term. I think that if we're going to have a relationship of trust among elected officials within Southampton, that we should be able to have conversations like this.
Absolutely.
And then
I agree.
understand where we're coming from, and that we're more open and transparent about this than I think we have been in the past in this town. So I appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation and be heard, and
But I gotta say, because you're saying we haven't been transparent and open on this,
no, that's not what I said. I meant,
in the past, we haven't been
no,
as
what I
transparent.
meant was in terms of the relationship between the members of Hampshire Regional School Committee and the town, because we haven't been having this dialogue. We haven't had people consistently over the past 10 years at these meetings. That's what I'm saying. I don't mean your transparency in terms of how you dealt with the budget until it came down to a half an hour before the budget, when our superintendent felt blindsided and our principal felt blindsided, and that was an unfortunate.
Misintent, or however you want
Well,
to.
our superintendent represents the local school
Of
too,
course.
and I know he says that this town, I take offense sometimes by the comments about how our town is not adequately funding the local school. I heard more comments after town meeting from people that fully acknowledged how hard we are trying to fund Norris. One way or another. The police extra money went to the Norris. The 34,000 from the Stormwater Highway went to the school. We're trying to fund this language program, and we ended up $24,000 short. And we went through the budget 3 times trying to find it. So my vote was because I felt like there was room in the Hampshire Regional budget to go ahead and find an additional $24,000. That's what mine was, apart from anybody. I feel like they're doing, both schools are doing a really good job. I'm trying to fund both adequately.
Of course, and I wish we could. I really wish we could. And you've seen me get up here and speak on behalf of Norris as well, because that's
So it wasn't
as
an affront to
important to
anybody.
me.
It's, my decision was a vote that I get to make.
Of course.
And I think it needs to be made clear that there was no discussion among any of us of how we individually were going to vote. We were at that meeting that night as an individual taxpayer with a single vote each, as everyone else sitting in that room. So there was no conversation. And again, the implication that there might have been really isn't. I think we all came to that decision on how we were going to vote out of our concern overall for the town's well-being and the budget and the implications of what we saw in the Hampshire budget and hoping to realize some additional savings. And those were my words, realize additional savings. That's what I said. And I said it to the principal before the meeting started.
And one woman got up and she says, so if we vote, this means we're cutting Hampshire Regional's budget. And I got up and clarified, says, no, it just means we're sending it back for a discussion, which I think was very clear at the meeting. And I think it should have went back for a discussion still, but that was my one vote. And, so that's the way it works. And I think if you go out there, people are going to come back to us and say, that's too bad. We should get more money. But we don't have that. We only have so much money.
Right, we had people come up to us after the meeting and say, why don't you ask for more money, because the town would give it to you. And we had to explain that that's not exactly how things work.
Well, it is, when you think about it, because if the other 4 towns vote on it, whatever you ask for, we have to give you, and that's the hard part
Of
that we have to
course.
deal with.
Of
Because
course.
technically, you could ask for 300,000 more, if the other 4 towns passed it, we'd have to draw it from somebody. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
And, you know, and for us, that we also know that other towns wish that we had, on school committee, voted for the highest level of funding. And we used our collective, you know, numbers to make sure
Agreed.
that we did the lowest one, because that's what was the right thing for our town.
Yeah, and had you done that, which you didn't, you get a lot of credit for that, the chances are that would have come from Norris or would have come, because that was
It would've.
a lot more money.
It was a lot more money.
And that would have changed
particularly
the
high one.
dynamic at the town meeting. But, so you did obviously the right thing. But I think what's important is the kids are getting a great education, the
Right.
teachers do a great job, they get paid fairly, they're up in the top end on Norris and Hampshire Regional, they get good benefits. So we're treating them well, which is priority. So we just got to fund it from the bottom here. So that's the
Yeah.
key.
I agree.
Yeah, so,
And I think I personally would like to start earlier next year.
yeah, yeah.
Which is why I was so concerned that we might not have a January meeting. I'd like to start talking about the budget in December and then have a full January meeting. And so I was very concerned about this idea that we would truncate some items. And even if we talk to the 5 towns about the budget, which I think we need to do in January, we still need to have our own meeting first and understand where we're all coming
Do
from.
it-
So,
The first time you see the numbers is January, and that just,
right,
yeah.
that makes
So I
it very
think that's a great
difficult.
thing.
So
thank
we
you
are
for
working on that.
getting up and speaking, and we
Sure.
appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks. Anybody else for the public? Okay. Anything that we've missed here before we go into executive session? Okay, Ed, on here, I don't have executive session listed. Yeah, I see it here now. Okay, I've got it on the other one. Okay, so we're going to go into executive session, and we will not return to open session. So we're going executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 6, to consider purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate. The chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating portion of the public body. It's regards to 68 Pomeroy Meadow Road. Session 2, same law, but section number 3, discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Regards to 77 Pequot Road zoning enforcement and Title V violations. Third session is Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A3. Discuss strategy with respect to litigation in the matter of Regina Shea Sullivan versus Town of Southampton Select Board et al., U.S. District Court Number 16, CV 12023, because the chair has declared that discussing the matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town. In Session 4, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Number 3, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. It regards police officers, New England Benevolent Police Association. May I have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Roden, aye.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Okay, let's take a quick 5-minute recess so Ryan could clear out.